Today on The Joy of Editing, we're taking a look at the Brilliance Warmth filter found in NIK 8 Color Efex, part of NIK Collection 8. Stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Cully. Today it's the Brilliance Warmth filter in NIK 8 Color Efex. One of my favorites, and I think you're going to enjoy this filter. By the way, if you don't yet own NIK 8 Color Efex, or you want to pick up some other DxO software, I have affiliate links in the description below this video. You can save 15% off on all DxO products by using my discount code Dave Cully. Now, this doesn't apply to upgrades, new purchases only. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, as always, I start out here in Photoshop, but you can launch Color Efex as a standalone app, and it works in other pieces of software too. You can use it out of Photolab 8 if you would like. I'll start by clicking the C button. This opens up the NIK 8 Color Efex panel. I'm just going to click Open. We'll launch Color Efex, and we will get started. Here we are in Color Efex, and we have our list of filters over here. They're all in alphabetical order. B's are at the top of the list, so let's go ahead and look for Brilliance Warmth. It's right here. I'll click the plus, and we have the Brilliance Warmth filter. And we see it over here on the right side of the interface. Now, what do we have here? We have a saturation adjustment, a warmth adjustment, and a perceptual saturation adjustment. I used to think that this saturation adjustment was a normal saturation adjustment, but you know what? It really isn't. Now, I'm showing the side-by-side comparison view just so we can see what's really happening when we make adjustments. The image on the left will be before, the image on the right will be after. Now let's take a look here. I'm going to take this saturation adjustment as an example and drag it the whole way to the right. And you see the image. Now it doesn't look oversaturated, right? But it looks really beautiful. Now let's compare that. I'm going to shut this off. Let's compare that to a normal saturation adjustment. I went ahead and added the Global Adjustment Vivasive filter because it has all your basic adjustments here. But we have a saturation adjustment. This is what I would call a normal saturation adjustment that you'll find in pretty much any piece of software. I'm going to take this saturation and drag it to 100%. And you see what the image looks like. That's 100% saturation. Now let me shut it off. And now let's turn on Brilliance Warmth. I'll just check it on. That's at 100%. So compare that. I'll shut this off to this. You can see a big difference there, right? Brilliance Warmth is at 100%, but it looks nowhere as saturated as the Vivasive filter gives us, right? As you can see, the Brilliance Warmth saturation adjustment is very much different than a normal saturation adjustment. I'm going to close the global adjustments now that you saw the comparison. A traditional saturation slider cranks up every color equally, which can lead to clipping or overly aggressive shifts, especially in highly saturated reds and blues. Now, the saturation adjustment in the Brilliance Warmth filter, on the other hand, works like a smart vibrancy enhancer. It's tuned to avoid harsh exaggerations and instead gently enriches colors in concert with the scene's tonality and warmth balance, or coolness, depending what you want. Now that we know what saturation is all about, I'm going to double click this handle right here and that resets it. No added saturation from the Brilliance Warmth filter. Now let's look at the warmth slider. If you move this slider to the right, you're going to add warm tones to the image. You see that? I'll take it the whole way to 100%. Now, once you're at 0% and you start to move left, you're going to add cool tones. So you have a choice. You can cool your image down or warm it up, whichever you would like. Let me double click this and reset it. And now let's move on to perceptual saturation. What is that all about? It's all about enhancing perceived saturation by subtly shifting surrounding hues. It creates a more natural vibrancy without oversaturation, as you can see. I'll double click this handle and reset perceptual saturation. Now let's make a Brilliance Warmth adjustment on this image. I always like to start out with saturation. It's on the top, so let's make a saturation adjustment. Let's drag this to the right and add more saturation. By the way, you can decrease saturation if you move it to the left. So let's add more saturation and stop where we think it looks good. And for this image, I think maybe right about here looks really nice. Now let's move on to the warmth slider. So if you take this adjustment, right now it's at 0%, move it to the right, you'll start to warm up the image. Isn't that nice? And this image I think looks nice warmed up, but if you move it to the left of 0%, you could cool it down. So depending what you want. In my case, I think I want to warm it up. I don't want to go too crazy here, but maybe right here at 22% looks really nice. Now compare the image on the left, the original, to the image on the right. Isn't that beautiful? If you've never used the Brilliance warmth filter, you need to give it a try. And I can almost guarantee you it'll be one of your go-to filters for any type of photography when you want to add some beautiful color, warmth, or coolness to your image. If you're enjoying this series where I'm going over all of the filters in NIK Color Efex, please leave a comment and let me know. And tune back in next Wednesday because I have a special announcement for you. And now the perceptual saturation adjustment. Let's see what this will do. So I'm going to drag this to the right. Let's start adding perceptual saturation. And notice what's happening. It's shifting the different hues a bit. I believe it's working with complementary colors. Now, if I go the whole way to 60%, that's really overdoing it, but you could kind of see what's happening there. Let's pull it back and stop where we think it looks good. Now, as with all filters, it's always a good idea not to overdo them. I tend to overdo things, and I'm sure you may too. So be careful with this. You don't want to go too crazy. And I think maybe right about here at 15%. And now I think I'm going to come back to the saturation adjustment, and let's pull this back a little bit. I don't want to overdo this, and I think maybe right about here. Now, on the left is the before, on the right is the after. Pretty nice. I really love this Brilliance warmth filter. Like I said, you got to give it a try. That's all I want to do for now, so I'll just click apply and send this back into Photoshop. And here we are back in Photoshop. Let me shut off this layer. This is before, this is after. And remember, if the effect's too strong in Photoshop, you always have layer opacity. You can drag this to the left and blend in the original image with it, just to tone it down a bit. But I'm going to leave this at 100%. I'm really happy with this result. Let's take a look at another example. I already went ahead and brought this image into Color Efex and applied the Brilliance warmth filter. I didn't adjust it yet. This time, let's see what perceptual saturation can do. I'll start with this adjustment. I'll move it to the right. Isn't that cool? Look how it's bringing out some really nice color in here. Maybe somewhere right around there looks really good. And now let me add a little bit of saturation on top of that. I'm adjusting the saturation slider to the right. I don't want to go too far here and overdo it. Maybe right about there should be good. And now, do I want to cool this down? It is a winter scene. I could cool it. Or do I want to warm it up? Maybe I'll just give it some slight warmth, maybe right there at 8%. So the image on the left before, the image on the right after. Pretty nice. I like that one. I'll click apply, send this back into Photoshop. And here we are back in Photoshop. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after. Again, before and after. A little more on the subtle side, but I think a really nice adjustment. One final example, a colorful flower image. I've applied the Brilliance warmth filter. No adjustments yet. Let's start out this time with saturation. I'll take the saturation slider, move it to the right. Look at that beautiful saturation coming in there. Isn't that nice? Right about here should be good. I don't want to overdo. Now let's play with perceptual saturation. Let me drag this to the right. See how it's affecting those different colors in here. You can really see what's happening there. That's up at 60%. Again, it's working with complementary colors, shifting the colors around. So let me shut it off. Let me see, do I want any of this? If I do, it's going to be very minimal, maybe 5%. Now, do we have to use the warmth slider? Not really. If you don't need it, don't use it. Let's add a little bit of warmth. Do we want to warm it up a little bit? Maybe a little bit of warmth. Let's cool it down a little bit. Do you like it warmer or cooler? In this case, you know what? Maybe a slight warmth, not much. Maybe right about here. So the image on the left is before, the image on the right is after. I really like this. I'll click apply and we'll send this back to Photoshop. Here we are back in Photoshop. Let me shut off this layer. Here is before and here's after. But that is the Brilliance warmth filter. I love this filter. You got to give it a try and let me know what you think about it in the comments section below. Or if you're somebody that uses it all the time, leave a comment and let us know about your experiences with the Brilliance warmth filter. Well, there it is, everyone. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon. Click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.